going to show you how to make the baby scan photo frame from Kreative Kiwi, and for that I'm going to be using a 6x10 hoop, 2 layers of wash away stabiliser, a selection of threads, and I've got a matching bobbin for when I do the outside border, squizzers, masking tape, some off cuts of vinyl for the hearts, my fabrics and batting cut to size. I've also got some clear vinyl that's going to go over the top of the photo. Got a scanned picture of the original photo and my templates there for the for cutting out the scanned photo, and also for my vinyl. Before you get started, you've got a little bit of prep work to do. I would advise you to scan your original photo and use the scanned version rather than your original image, because you're going to have to resize it anyway to fit into the template. So print off your template, and you must print it off to size. Don't reduce it, scale it, or print to fit. Print it at normal size so that it actually prints to the size it's supposed to. And there's one for each size of hoop there. So you've got the 5x7 and you've got the 6x10. Take your template and you're going to place it over your baby scan, draw around the your template, and then you're going to cut out your image. I've just got mine taped here. I prepared it earlier. So that's our scanned image all cut out. This piece you can also use as a template for your clear vinyl that's going to sit over the top of your photo and hold it all in place. So once you've done all that, you can then go ahead and hoop your wash away stabiliser. So hoop your 2 layers of wash away stabiliser. It's important to use 2 layers as well, because this is your foundation for your stitching. And if you haven't got a good foundation that's going to stop your fabric from moving in the frame, it's going to affect the stitch quality of your frame, especially when it comes to doing the satin stitch around the border. You will find that it goes round rather than laying nice and flat if you haven't stabilised your work properly. I always pin around the top edge of my hoop, and this stops my stabiliser being dragged down between the 2 frame pieces. I've included a link in the video description on how to do this. It's very difficult to show you on a frame this size on camera, so I have got a separate video that shows how it's done. Once you've hooped and pinned your embroidery frame, you're then going to load your file into your machine, and I would suggest that you put the thread that you're going to use for the quilting into your machine first. It saves unnecessary thread changes. Also, I would also advise you to quilt the fabric when the time comes, because it's going to help stabilize your fabrics and prevent puckers when you come to do your fill stitching. So that's enough of me talking. Let's get on with it. So pop your frame into your machine and stitch round number 1, and that's going to give you your batting placement outline. Place your batting over the outline and then tape it in place so that it can't move during stitching. Pop your hoop back into your machine and stitch round number 2 to secure it. Trim away the excess batting from around the stitch line. You're now going to place your front fabric over the batting. Oops. And tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 3 to secure it. Next is round number 4, and that's the quilting. So if you haven't done so already, load the thread colour that you want for the quilting into your machine. Load your thread colour for the word weeks into your machine, and then you're going to stitch round number 5. The text is going to stitch one after the other, so if you want to stay with the same colour all throughout, then you've got no thread changes. If you want to change the thread for every word, then you can do that as well. Next is the word length, so if you want to change your thread, do so now, and then stitch round number 6. Next is the word date, so if you want to change your thread colour, do so now, and then stitch round number 7. Next is the word sex, and if you want to change your thread colour, now is the time to do so. If you don't want to add this, then you can skip all the colours relating to this heart, but you could equally just write in a question mark on the heart if you didn't want to announce the sex of the baby, or if you don't know, of course. We're now going to stitch round number 8. Load your thread colour for the satin stitch of the top heart into your machine, because it will save you keep swapping colours for now. Then you're going to stitch round number 9, and that's going to do the placement line of the top heart. Next is round number 10, and that's the second heart. Round number 11 is the placement line for the third heart. Round number 12 is the placement line for the fourth heart, and if you didn't want to do this heart, then you would skip this colour, of course. Place your vinyl over the top heart, and I'm using scraps here for this one, and then tape it in place. Pop your hoop back into your machine and stitch round number 13 to secure it. You can now trim up the excess vinyl from around the heart. I'm just going to trim up the point here, just snip that off so that it's not in the way, and I will trim everything up in one go at the end. You're now going to place your second piece of vinyl down for your second heart and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 14 to secure it. You're now going to do the same for the third heart. So I'm going to place this down and tape it in place. You could, of course, if you had a piece big enough or cut a piece big enough, put your vinyl over all 4 and just stitch one after the other. You're now going to pop your hoop back into your machine and stitch round number 15 to secure your vinyl. I'm just going to chop this in half and then use it on the bottom one. So place your last piece of vinyl over the bottom heart and tape it in place. Pop your hoop into your machine and stitch round number 16 to secure it. I'm now going to trim up all the excess vinyl from around the hearts. The next sequence of colours is going to do the satin stitching around the heart and also the top stitching over the top. So if you want to change your thread between each heart, that's absolutely fine, you can do that. If not, you can do it all in one colour, it's entirely up to you. Make sure you've loaded the colour that you want for the top heart into your machine, and then you're going to stitch round number 17. If you want to change your thread for the satin stitch on the second heart, now is the time to do so. And then you're going to stitch round number 18. Load your thread colour for the third heart into your machine, and then you're going to stitch round number 19, and that's going to do the satin stitch around the third heart. Load your thread colour for the bottom heart into your machine and then stitch round number 20. Load your thread colour for the silhouette into your machine, and then you're going to stitch round number 21. And that's going to do the silhouette of the woman and also the satin stitching around the photo area of her belly. We're now going to add our photo. I've got a piece of kitchen roll here and also a glue stick, and that's just going to help hold this while I position the clear vinyl. So just put a little bit of glue on the back of your photo. And then you're going to position it over the top of the satin stitch edge around the belly here. So to press that down and hold it a second. And that's enough to hold it while I position my clear vinyl over the top. Now I've wiped mine over with some alcohol so that there's no smudges, fingerprints or anything else on it. And then I'm just going to tape it in place. You can now pop this into your machine and stitch round number 22. I've slowed my machine right down for this, and I'm also staying with the black thread of the silhouette. We're now going to trim up the excess clear vinyl from around the stitch line. I advise you not to cut too close because you don't want it all, the stitching coming undone or tearing. So that's the photo all covered and finished now. We're now going to add the backing fabric, so turn your hoop over, place your backing fabric over the outline and then tape it in place. Pop your hoop back into your machine and stitch round number 23. You're now going to trim up the excess fabric from both the front and back of your hoop. So turn your hoop over. Load your matching bobbin and thread into your machine, and then you're going to stitch round number 24, and that's going to do the satin stitch around the edge of your frame. So that's all the stitching done now. We're now going to free this from the hoop, so turn your hoop over and trim around the edge with a pair of scissors close to the stitch line, taking care not to cut any of the stitching, of course. All that remains now is to dissolve the excess stabiliser from around the edge, so take a cotton bud and dip it in some warm water and just run it round the edge. And that's our baby scan photo frame finished. I'm sure you'll agree it makes a very special keepsake, and I'm sure it would also make a very nice memory frame as well. All that remains is for you to fill in the details with a biro or a permanent marker in these areas, and you've got yourself a beautiful keepsake. I hope you enjoyed this stitch along. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified of new videos as they're published. Do pop along to Kreative Kiwi's Facebook group. There's lots of ideas, inspiration and help there for everybody. And thank you very much for joining me.